right, welcome back. Welcome back. Happy Monday. I hope you're having an awesome day. Today, we're going to talk about how desire is foundational, and that is that great speaking starts long before the mic. It starts with a desire that has been in preparation mode and has been purified and has gone through a process of refinement. So today, you're going to learn how to set clear influence goals and to see yourself as somebody who can influence others. You'll discover why dreaming and vision is not wasted time, and how expectations, that is your personal desires, actually shape your outcomes, and how a good positive obsession that is aimed at service creates the very thing that you are pursuing. All right? So the question I have for you today is, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want it? Now, depending on how you were raised or how you were programmed, that could trigger you. Just the very question of ambition and desire is a stumbling block for a lot of people. And that is, they fear that it's connected to pride or ego or some sort of thing. And they can't even get to the point of saying, like, how bad do you want it? Because they can't let themselves desire something. And that is, there's probably something inside them that is not integrated or incongruent or whatever it is, which I'm going to talk about that a little bit so we can bust through that. So the question, how bad do you want it? That triggers you? Stay. All right. We're going to get a little bit deeper into this. Now, my college professor, he gave this analogy and it was really, really good. And he talked about this village guru. He pulled it out of kind of an Eastern story. But the guy goes to this village guru and he says, I want wisdom. So the village guru, with a little smile, says, are you sure you want wisdom? He's like, yes, I want wisdom. And he smiles and he gently walks him over to a bucket of water. You know, those big buckets that they put him in. And he looks at him once again. He goes, are you sure that you want wisdom? And the guy goes, once again, yes, I'm absolutely sure. I want wisdom. Give me wisdom. How do I get wisdom? And so he goes, okay. And the village guru grabs his head. He grabs him by the hair and he just shoves him into this water. And he's holding his head down in this water. And he's, over a period of time, he starts to kick and scream, and not scream, obviously, his face is underwater, but he starts kicking, you know, and his survival instincts kick in, and he's fighting against the guru in his hand, and there's no way to win. And so finally, at the extent of this guy is possibly going to die, he pulls him out, and the guy grabs a big old grasp of air, like, whoo. And after he began to compose himself, began to say, what is wrong with you? You are trying to kill me. Why would you do that? And the village guru looks him in the eye and says, when you want wisdom, like you want that air, you'll get it. And so what it is tapping into a how bad do you really want this thing? Because a casual thing is not going to be enough burning desire for you to actually execute and carry it out. All right. How bad do you really want it? Because that is going to be the differentiator of whether you succeed or whether you fail. Do you want it? Do you want it a little? What is, if we were to give a meter on your desire for the influence that you're trying to create in the world, if you were to give a meter, well, how bad do you really want it? And you would judge the scale like 3, 4, 5. It's not enough. All right, not enough. Now, this leads us into wanting something in the sense like a vital necessity. Now, we know the need for food and some of these other things. And if you went without food for a prolonged period of time, that your desire would be for the attainment of that food. If you did not have water for a prolonged period of time, your desire would be for that water. And that is, you would have a strong enough desire for you to begin to obtain the thing that you want. All right. And that's the kind of desire that we need to tap into if we are going to be successful on anything that we create. If we're creating a business, a book, a course, a podcast, it doesn't matter, that we have to incorporate with that the desire to succeed. If you throw something out into the world and you say that I don't have any expectations for this, and I don't think it would reach very many people, and I don't expect too much from this. I hear this often inside of podcasts. Yeah, I really want to launch a podcast. I want to get my voice out there, but I'm not really going to expect too much from this. Get out of here. Go somewhere else. You're not going to expect too much from this. And we have been given the mindset that expectations and desires are wrong. Now, this is the reason why that I can never really latch on to an Eastern philosophy that's connected to this kind of frame, right? Never really could grab onto that. And I know a lot of ambitious men who have desires and give themselves permission to succeed and all these different things. They have a very hard time with that kind of philosophy too. And I've tried Hakuna Matata. I've tried emptying myself, becoming nothing, carefree, have no worries. And then everything that's related to responsibility and mission and empowerment gets thrown off. I actually think that some of this philosophy is to get people on the sidelines, to get them inactive and doing nothing. All right. Anyways, my goal in this talk today is not to bash anybody's philosophy or life philosophy, but it's to point out the desire and expectations matter. They matter a lot. I want you to think about this. I'm going to get married, and instead of vows, no vows, and no expectations, no promise. I'm just going to empty myself of desires for this marriage. I don't have any expectations for you. Fidelity, intimacy, connection, relationship, doesn't matter to me. So we put it inside of that context. We're like, whoa, yeah, that doesn't sound very good. Why? Because you come into a marriage agreement and a covenant because you are establishing expectations. Death do us part, sickness and health. Nah, I don't expect you to stick around when I get sick. Absolutely ludicrous, right? Ludicrous. And that is because we are set up for expectations. Now, I used to manage a lot of people, and I managed them with the frame. It was called supervision for success. And the frame of it was we set expectations and we defined what success looked like. And we got their buy-in for the expectations and what success looks like. And then any sort of coaching centered around them being successful inside of their role. And that is, we laid out the expectations and what it is. And so everything within the communication is for them to be successful inside of the role that they have. And that is the thing that made this work is high expectations. Imagine you hiring an employee and you have zero expectations and no job function. You tell me how that's going to work out. It's not going to work out because the expectations are not there. All right. The foundation for anything great is always desire and expectations. Now, I understand a little bit of the philosophy to desire and to expect nothing. If you desire and expect nothing, you won't be disappointed. If I don't expect too much from you, then I understand. If I launch this book and I don't expect too much, when it doesn't get the influence and reach, then I don't feel bad. If I start this podcast and I say, well, whatever will be, Hakuna Matata, and it doesn't reach the effect, then I don't feel bad. That means I don't have attachment or desires to it. Sounds smart. Sounds even, I don't know, a hint of truth. But let me tell you, there's nothing further from the truth. And that is your expectations and desires have to be set. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't be disappointed or experience some sort of emotion attached to not reaching something, right? But the reality is that this is life, right? We have dashed expectations. We have goals that we don't reach. So since we have dashed expectations, does that mean that we do not expect? And because we do not reach a goal, does that mean that we throw away goal setting? No, right? We have to set the expectations, and we have to be okay with the desires that we have. And that is, we are choosing a definite goal. Now, it's my personal opinion, at some point, you're going to have to go all in for this thing to work. You're going to have to go all in with it. Now, it's best to use wisdom, right? And that is, I didn't start out working from home. This laptop life has been 8 years in the making. I've been doing this for 8 years, and I didn't just dive in, okay? And that it was a process. I was working inside of a treatment center, helping out risk youth, and I had a steady job working for the man. It was quite fulfilling. I found personal fulfillment inside of coaching and helping young men transition into adulthood and go to college and get a job and all these wonderful things. I have amazing success stories. I have some horror stories, right? Major horror stories. But at any rate, there was a transition in process of me going all in. And that is, I was going to pursue this life. And the best advice that I can give with that is start your side project, set away time to begin to execute that side project until you build it to the point where all you can think about is that side project, and it's consuming your time and your energy, and it's growing to the point to where it eats up the other thing, right? And then you're releasing and letting go of it. But at some point inside of this journey of being an influencer, you're going to have to go all in, and that is sink or swim. And for me, there was really no going back. You know, both of the careers that I had in the past, they all require a bachelor's degree now. And so they require a 4-year college thing. And so each time I kind of left, it was a sense of there wasn't any going back in that sense, unless I go to college or something, right? And there was no getting back into a treatment center that I was grandfathered in that required a minimum a bachelor degree. And so there was a lot of burning the bridges. There was a lot of, there really is no going back to that life. And at some point, you're going to have to burn the bridges. You understand the concept of burning the bridges, right? So it's an old analogy, which I think the story was not true, but it sure does preach well. And that is that a army came in on their ship and they were facing an enemy. So the general burned the boats, and there was no retreat. Nice, cute story. I don't think it ever happened, but you get the point. There's some point you're going to have to go all in. So burning desire. Burning desire leads to an obsession. An obsession, could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. And so let's address that for a moment, because the reason why we don't get obsessed about a thing is because of the negative connotation attached to it. A good obsession is good. In fact, if your obsession is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, let me tell you, that is pretty good obsession to have. But that is a strong enough desire that it is all-consuming. Now, when prophets of old, they were giving the message, they were told to eat the scroll or to get it within them, and they had a burning, and it was a burning desire, and all of that obsession was a good thing. And that is what I'm presenting to you, is that whatever burden or thing is placed upon your heart, that obsession is a good thing. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that we don't sacrifice our health on the altar of this good thing, or to sacrifice our family in the altar of this good thing. And so there is a concept that the obsession and the desire that we have needs to be curbed, in the sense of it doesn't get out of control like a wildfire and think that it can consume everything. But you need to have a strong desire. Now, what I have noticed with myself is that I wouldn't give myself permission to succeed in some of these things because there wasn't really a purification of desire yet. And that is that we really won't allow ourselves to be successful if we don't believe that we are worthy of success. And that is that we set our mental weather, our thermostat for our life, or you can call it a personal ceiling. And you won't allow yourself to burst through that ceiling until you give yourself permission. And that is that you are okay with the desires that you have and that you feel like you are in alignment with God with those desires. And that is that you feel like He has given you permission to pursue. Permission to pursue. And the only way that this can happen is through the purification of desires. And that is to get to the point where this is not for ego. This is not for flesh. I'm already secure inside of the love of God. I'm not trying to get acceptance or approval or any of these other things. This is not to pat me on the back. This is not because I'm living in some sort of insecurity that I need my ego stroked. This is not for me just to consume it upon my own lust. We have to have the purification of desire. So the influence that you're looking to create has to be attached more to image, more than ego, more than flesh, more than all of these different lower base things. Because if it is, we actually won't give ourselves permission to obtain those things. And not only that, but we're going to be out of alignment. In other words, if we get those things, that it's going to be more damage than good. If we get that position, it's only going to feed our insecurities and our ego. If I get that influence, it's only because I'm fearful and insecure and that I need this. Have you noticed that during this talk, I've never talked about needing anything? I'm talking about a burning desire, and that is a wanting something. All right. Need-based behavior and insecurity is that I need this, right? Purification of desire is, this is not for me. It is for something quite bigger. And that doesn't mean that I don't get some personal fulfillment out of it, but it's a lot bigger than me. It's a lot bigger. All right. So you got to begin to see yourself with the obtainment of that desire. Now, let me tell you, for the faith-based folks out there, if you're not faith-based, don't worry. There's a principle that you can grab with this. And that is before any receptivity, and that is before you can receive a thing, you have to be open and you have to have the capacity to receive. And that is before capacity to receive happens, there is a burning desire and a request, right? That is, if you really, really want something and somebody else had the ability to give it to you, the burning desire within you would lead to a request. And this is a seeking out. So burning desire leads to a seeking out. And this is the process. You cannot expect a acquiring of a thing, and that is to come into possession of it and to have it and to hold it, if you don't have the desire first. And if you don't set out and seek this, this is what Christ said. Ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall find. Knock and the door will be open to you. And what I want to point out here is it is a progression. It starts with asking. Then it goes to seeking. Now, seeking has to do with an all-out search. Now, asking is making a request. Seeking is setting out a plan, which we're going to talk about in a later episode, but setting out a plan that is going to acquire the thing that it is that you are looking for. All right? Ask, seek, knock. Now, knock, that is an all-out action statement. That is not planning. That is not the search party. That is beyond search party, and that is that you are actually putting actions behind the thing. So you can see the progression. Ask, seek, and knock. Before any receptivity, before you ever receive, acquire, and obtain. Ask and you shall receive. Now, we often like to think that this stuff, just because I desire something means it's going to happen immediately, and that's not the case. Now, nobody tells you that there is a lot of time spent in each of these locations, asking, seeking, and knocking. Nobody tells you that before the obtainment. Easy believers and some of the stuff that is out there is just ask and you shall receive. And it's just like something happens just immediately and you begin to walk in it. Now, just because you desire a thing doesn't mean that it's going to take place in a very quick fashion. There's going to be a lot of time spent in dreaming. This is why it's so important to see your future self, to see the desires, get clear on the desires, allow yourself permission to receive those desires, and spend a lot of time dreaming of what that life looks like. Who do you want to become? We're going to go deeper in that in another episode. So nobody tells you that there's going to be time spent dreaming, setting the expectations. What do I expect from this? What do I want this to do for me? Like whenever you create something, a course, a book, a business, a podcast, it doesn't matter what you are creating, is if you don't sit down and say, what do I want this vehicle to accomplish? Don't be upset when it doesn't. You had no burning desire and you had no expectation. You don't have any right to expect it to produce something that you never really concreted and set it in stone, right? That is just like in a relationship. If they haven't said, I do, and committed to death do us part in sickness and in health, you don't have any right for that person or to expect that person to do anything for you. There isn't any expectations set, right? So you don't have the right to expect. Let me tell you, people dive into all of these different endeavors with no expectations. And let me tell you, if you don't expect, you don't have the right to expect it. Just be satisfied with the outcomes because you did not aim. Come on now. That's the preacher in me. So setting expectations, refining what you want, getting super, super clear on the thing that you want and preparing for the thing that you want. See, a lot of the time is spent in that category before there's ever any sort of attainment or receiving or anything like that, okay? Now, here's the reality that nobody is ready for a thing until he desires, seeks, asks, and knocks for the thing. Like if you're not willing to ask, seek, and knock, you're not ready for it. And you're not ready to acquire the thing until you believe that you can actually have the thing. We'll get into that in another episode, okay? But the reality is that nobody is ready for a thing until he believes he can acquire it. So we need to get comfortable in the transition period before the acquiring of the influence. Now I'm going to lay out here because I was given major inspiration on an episode and I laid out from the pond to the ocean. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a whole book. That's going to be absolutely amazing. So I'm going to flesh that out for you, what it looks like to start something and to expand and grow and grow and grow. Okay. That's at a later date. All right. So number one here is you have to decide the exact influence outcome you want. Anybody who is communicating for high influence, they decide what they want the audience to do. They decide what the audience to believe, and they decide what they want the audience to stop doing or to stop tolerating. Now, I made this post in a group recently about communication for transformation. And it was given to a lot of faith-based people, and that is leaders and elders and pastors and stuff. And I was kind of surprised, but not really, because, we as Christians, we have the most empowering beliefs on the planet. We also have the most disempowering beliefs. It's a strange dichotomy. But anyways, the leaders and all the different leaders, and I would say a majority, there was a minority who got what I was talking about, but a majority didn't. And that is that they are just the mouthpiece. They just get up there. They don't set any intentions. They don't map anything out. They're just relying on the Holy Spirit, and it's God that does the work. And I would like to say that this is a cop-out, all right? And I don't mean to criticize anybody who has that mindset, but if you're going to be a high-influence communicator, you're going to have to begin to craft and hone your skills. Nobody communicates for transformation automatically. You are not automatically set up to communicate for transformation. In fact, we're set up automatically to communicate for information. And the reason why that people are not experiencing the transformation is because we're not communicating to produce change inside of people. We're not communicating in a way that produces transformation. We are communicating in a way that gives them information. And so they get all lopsided inside of their life because this is the way that we're communicating. And these same people are sitting there, I don't understand why these people are untransformed. I could tell you why they're untransformed. They need somebody who speaks to the other side of their brain. All right. It's not that we throw logic and facts and data to the wind. It's just we need to begin to engage the other side of the brain that is relational and bonding and emotional connection and all these different things. That's why there's no transformation. And that is, if you want to communicate for transformation, you have to actually set your intentions to do so. It's not going to happen automatically. Now, God can do his parts, or influence, or getting in the zone, or getting in the flow, like all these different things can happen inside of that part. But you need to do your part. All right. Now, a lot of speakers say that I want to be impactful. What does that mean? And do I want to give them a lot of data and facts? Do I just want to stir their emotions, to give them inspiration? Do I just want to entertain them? What exactly is impacts mean? And so the best way to get down to the nitty-gritty of this is, when I communicate, I want my audience to believe. All right. When I stepped up to this, I created the skeleton and I said, I want my audience to believe in desire and how important it really is. I want to stir inside of them a desire to create influence and impact and begin to lead with their communication. All right. I want my audience to believe what? What do you want them to believe? Now, a lot of that comes with communication of, well, what belief I need to destroy then? What misconception do I need to bust? Because if you're trying to get people to believe something, then you need to talk about the misconceptions. So I started out and I talk about the misconceptions of different philosophies that say desire nothing, Hakuna Matata, and I gave the opposing viewpoint right off, and I gave my opinion of why it should be smashed and let go of. All right. Number two is, I want them to do what? What do I want them to do? Maybe it's in the next 24 hours. Maybe it's this week. Any form of communication should never leave without a sense of practical action. People should know what it is that they are to do with what you just presented. And lastly, I want them to stop. One of the greatest things that we can do is begin to often assess what it is that we need to start doing, what it is that we need to stop doing, what it is that we need to sustain doing, and what it is that we need to destroy, like utterly tear it apart, right? These are good questions. So, am I communicating in a way that is going to get somebody to stop doing something that is detrimental and or stop tolerating a certain belief or a mindset? If I'm communicating in a way that is vague, if my desire is vague, then it creates a vague talk. If I have a definite desire, there is a reason that I jumped on this mic today. If I have a definite desire, it's going to create a talk that has a direction. And direction is going to create trust. So you can ask yourself this question. After I speak, after I'm done, my audience will fill in the blank. One sentence. Get direct. Get concrete. See, you're not writing a slogan. You are choosing an outcome and a destination. And then the only thing that you need to do is to begin to deliver something that serves that outcome. I want you today to get attached to your desires. I want you to begin to want greatness. I want you to begin to want influence. And all the dreams and the visions that God placed upon your life, I want you to obsess over those things, so that you begin to pursue those things, that you ask, seek, and knock so you can acquire those things. All right. Now, one of the worst things that we can do is choose an outcome that can't be observed. And sad to say this, the three modes of communication, though they are important. So understand me when I say that I think that information and data is important. I think getting people the right facts, I think that is important, but it's not observable. There is no action or practical action attached to these things. And this is the reason why people become hearers and not doers, because they think that the accumulation of the information is the goal, and it's not. Right? Wisdom is the application of the said information. So I'm not saying that information is bad. I'm just saying that it's not observable. Inspiration, not observable. I mean, I guess you can observe somebody get like goosebumps, or maybe you can observe them, I don't know, feel like feelings of endorphins that are going on in their brain. But if it doesn't lead to application and action, then it's not observable. It's not real. There's nothing there. Now, people should be informed to take action. People should be inspired to take action. And the last one, entertained. There's nothing wrong with entertainment. Then I go to concerts, you know, 1 or 2 a year, Christian concerts and some non-Christian. I love Breaking Benjamin and some of the other new metal people that came up in the 2000s. But at any rate, I go to entertainment stuff. I like entertainment, right? But entertainment alone, when it comes to communication for change or transformation, if it doesn't lead to some sort of application, then it's not going to be as effective in what I'm talking about. So inspiration's good, education is good, entertainment's good, but are we giving people transformation inside of that? Now, I think people can educate for transformation. I'm educating you in a transformation process, all right? I might be entertaining you. I don't know. And hopefully I'm inspiring you. But it's all related to transformative things, all right? Outcome must be observable. Now, another thing that I see is packing all kinds of different outcomes inside of one talk. I'm here to help you change your mindset and change your habits and change your strategy and change your relationships and change. I'm here to help you change the world. Like, all of that is so vague. And it's so like multiple things, right? You cannot get somebody to take transformation in 5 different things in one talk. This is why I'm talking to you about desire. All I want to do today is to get you to desire the good things that are inside of your future, because if I can get you to want them, then I can get you to have them. Simple, direct, and to the point. All right? Writing the outcome that isn't really an outcome. It's just a nice cliche. There's no real outcome attached to it. And lastly is confusing content. Vague. My outcome is this. My outcome is that. And it's all super, super vague. All right. So here's the simple way. Is right after I speak, my audience will. What will they feel? What will they do? What are they going to start? What are they going to stop? What are they going to no longer tolerate? Like, answer those questions, because once you get clear on that, you'll be good to go. So my whole talk was to bring you to this point of simply state your desire in what it is that you want them to do. In one detail, a belief that they will name, a belief that they will name. And that is a belief that they might need to drop, a belief that they might need to embody, and an action that they will take and or a standard that they will stop tolerating. They're no longer going to tolerate this thing. All right? And then begin to craft your talk in that manner. And by all means, cut out anything that doesn't achieve that objective. All right? I'll see you tomorrow.